We're talking CPS, we're talking HHS, we're talking human trafficking in the latest video that we just dropped that's gone on fire on Facebook. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Twitter files and, of course, answer any and all questions on Article 5 and the calling of a convention of states to take this country back and save the world. So if you're ready, let's play offense.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I don't want you to ride. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the streets. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Has the whole world gone crazy? Am I the only one around here who gives a shit about the rules?
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!"
Welcome, everybody. We're back live on our Wednesday night live interactive conversation. I've got Ruben Rodriguez with me, representing Belleville, New Jersey. So rock on, Ruben. Got some East Coast representation here. Before we get started, we're going to talk today about, first and foremost, about this human trafficking situation. And I hope many of you have seen the video that was dropped. I dropped that on Sunday night, and it's gone wildfire ever since. It's been shared more than 5,000 times. I think it's like 5.5 thousand times that video has been shared. And I want to get into a little bit about what the thought process was going into that, because Project Veritas is actually the reason they did their drop of their Health and Human Services whistleblower, with the migrant workers being basically released into the hands of traffickers on a regular basis. And then that sent me down the rabbit hole that made me drag CPS, Child Protection Services, into that video set. So the first half of it was a ton of local stuff from about CPS, and then got into the Project Veritas. And never has the shirt that I'm wearing been more powerful than it is right now. And I will tell you that, just so you see it in a close-up, I have the hashtags underneath this that you usually can't see. Great Reset, BlackRock, NWO, Disney, Save Our Children. And so, that's something that, just rings home. I was thinking of this shirt when I was looking into this stuff. And that shirt is available for sale. So there's my shameless plug there. If you go to our website, patriotthinktank.com, it will be right on the front page. There'll be a link to our Etsy store. If you are not from the U.S., as we have a lot of international folks who are, from the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, right? So if you're not from the U.S. and the upside down flag is not your thing because it's a U.S. flag, I do have a generic version of it as well without the flag. And for those in the States who don't know what the upside down flag is, just so you know, there's probably thousands of people now that have joined on, especially on the Facebook side, that may not know. You'll see this a lot in videos that I put out and in things like that. And what the upside down flag represents is a nation in distress. So that's the symbolism there. But the shirts are available. Anytime you see me wearing a new shirt on the show, it will be available in that store. I always buy them first for myself and then put them out there. But Ruben, I know you saw the Project Veritas drop. I don't know if you saw the video that I dropped, but it was it was a video that I intended to originally make about 5 minutes long. And most of the produced videos like that, where I'm not in there talking and stuff, are usually around that 5-minute mark. And this one went 9 minutes because I just couldn't find anything to cut out of it.
Thank God for Project Veritas, huh?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, right? So, like, when they dropped that, and for those that don't know what the Project Veritas drop was, There was a worker at the Department of Health and Human Services who was working. I forget her title. It was like Inspector General. She was working for the Inspector General on ethics and something else, but she had noticed that there were an abnormal amount of um, of children being sent to sponsors who were who were all in the same area. They were all within like a few square miles in Austin, Texas. And I'm not shocked that when I looked at the demographics of the video we dropped, Texas was the number one the number one viewer of it. And so they were all being sent to this few square miles of Austin, Texas, and she was curious. So she started to look into it. And when she started to look into it, she noticed all kinds of problems with it and tried to bring it to the attention of her superiors who would not listen to her, and she became this is one of those moments, right? When we say it all the time, once you see you can't unsee. This is one of those moments where your eyes open, and she realized, like, why wouldn't they, like, this is disturbing. The same sponsor, like, rearranging his name. You know how Latino names can have like three or four right names in them, and he would take like the second middle name and make it his first name, and then apply for another child to sponsor other children, and then do the same thing, and then someone else would do the same thing. And like there were like instances in the same building where the same guy with a rearranged name was sponsoring, a dozen kids. So Project Veritas, who by the way have gotten better at this, have at what they do. They used to just be like a couple years ago, they would have just listened to her story, showed some documents, and moved on. But now they actually flew people out there to the addresses that this woman had given them from case files that she had taken. And upon arriving there, they found exactly what this woman was saying was there, and talked to some of the children there, and the children were openly talking about, yeah, they have a debt to pay. Yes, they can't. One girl was working in a restaurant for them. They pulled her out of school. She had to work in a restaurant. And um and uh and by the way, thank you, Loy Loy, and greetings from Southeast Queensland, Australia. There we go. So and 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 so basically they talked to these kids, and the kids were like, yeah, one girl said, I owe 18,000, and they were like, dollars? And she was like, no, quetzales. I forget what the name of the Guatemalan currency is, but it was that. It equated, I looked it up, it equated to like $3,000 that she owed for that she owed to the traffickers. And the another girl was working every day from 2 p.m. to like 4 a.m. at a restaurant, and it's crazy stuff. Like, it's exactly everything, the worst stuff that you can imagine. I encourage, once we're done with the broadcast, go check out the video that we dropped on this. You'll get a clip, you'll get some synopsis of the Project Veritas, but it also gives you a lot of stuff about CPS, which is just as creepy. Just as creepy. I mean, and because when I went into it, Rube, like I saw the Project Veritas one, right? And I think we've all heard at some level, right, that there's this massive child scheme going on, right? Epstein and all this out there, and we've all heard this, but like seeing how it actually works was what was so disturbing about it. And like knowing that Health and Human Services knows that these kids. I mean, when the lady said to him, what did they say to her at the end when she was like, because they said there's someone came up to her saying they're sending more kids to Austin, and she was like, "How could that be?" And like went to her superiors and like was like, "What are we doing? We're sending more kids." And they told her, like, the response from Health and Human Services was, "Well, what they say? Oh yeah, we don't get sued. We only get sued for having kids for too long, holding them too long. We never the traffickers never sue." And she was like, "What?" And she was like, and she said they repeated it to her like sternly, like, understand, traffickers never sue. And that was their response. So if there was even a part of you that was like, well, maybe they don't know, like maybe it's just the government machine is going
Oh,
and they're
they
all,
know. They 100% know.
bro, it's so twisted. Like I can't even, I
But
can't even like wrap my head around how twisted a human being you have to be. And She said, "I hope you're monitoring who's watching this." I already see something off. What do you see off there, Shavetta? Because I'm not. Everything seems fine to me. If anybody's seeing anything off, let me know so we
Maybe we have a
can.
troll.
Yeah, we can get it corrected. I do want to say thank you to our Facebook followers in particular. We've now crossed the 11,000. We're approaching 12,000 followers at this point, and we're monetized, which is like a stunner to me. I mean, I don't even know how the whole monetization system works and all that. The video that we just put out on the child trafficking though was the first one since we monetized, and it's doing pretty well. So, I just want to say thank you guys. For forever, I've been paying for everything out of my pocket for for this thing, and like it's all been, all the subscriptions, all the software stuff, and between the Adobe and these different video editing softwares and different image, because I'm not right. I'm not making. I can't build everything from scratch. I don't know all those trades. So just to be able to do what we do, it's cost a few $100s a month. So anything that we can get, and I owe that to our Facebook folks. YouTube, we got a lot of catching up to do on YouTube. So what I'm going to ask right now is all the Facebook people just get up and walk over to the YouTube room and click the subscribe and bell button there. I'm just so. But anyway, back to the point. I don't want to make too many jokes while talking about this because it's that serious. But Rube, you saw the Project Veritas. What went
I
through
did.
your head when you first saw it?
It's to the point where nothing shocks you anymore. And this was really shocking. And you're right, it was really well produced. They're getting a lot better at the. They almost put Tinder out of business originally because that's how
Yeah,
they used to get all of their information.
yeah.
Um,
When I saw them actually go on the ground, though, that's what impressed me. That's where I was like, "All right, these guys are getting for real now." Like, and it's
but it's
probably
just
just an increase in budget, right?
Eh,
Like,
but you know what bothers me? If well, yes, and also they're getting a lot more viewers. They're a lot more monetized now. And the problem with them is everything that and it goes back to the media, right? The media reports it, and the way they report it is they go far right wing journalist. His name escapes me. James O'Keefe. Far right wing extreme journalist James O'Keefe is reporting this. So immediately everybody says what? They go, "Oh, this is just another conspiracy theory," and they turn it off. But I mean, I don't know how you turn it off. I really don't know how anybody doesn't believe it. But like this is one of my things that people like on the left get mad at me about because just so you know, I'm really weird political wise. Like I'm against illegal immigration, but not for the reasons that most people think. Like, I'm not like they're here to steal our jobs and this and that. We saw it. You and I worked together in the restaurant business 30 years ago, 20 years ago, when this is how they got people over. They got people over, and successful
but what's
restaurants
happening
lived on
now is
this.
different than that, though.
But I know, I understand. But my point is, what it was, hey, it's going to cost you $3,000 to get here. You get here and you work for me in my restaurant. You rent about my apartment and you pay me off. And then it was like a sponsorship, but an illegal sponsorship. And this is the same thing they're doing now, but they're doing it with these kids, and they're baking these kids. What amazed me was they were so young with the kids. You know, they're not. We're not talking about 12-year-old, 14-year-old girls. We're talking about babies. You know,
Yeah,
I don't know.
bro. There was one of the stings. I didn't include this one in the video that I did through the editing, but like as people can imagine, when you're putting together a montage like that, there's tons of different videos that you're watching on the topic, papers that you're reading, etc. One of the ones where they had and here's the thing, they were all local, right? They're all local news doing the investigating. And it's like that's why, and these stories never get picked up to go national. They always stay local. And I think that's what made the video so powerful is it took a lot of these local reports and mashed them together into one piece so you could just see how many small towns and whatnot that this stuff is happening in. And like one of them though, they said that there was a woman who was actually selling all she was busted now. She didn't get a chance to do it, but she agreed with a in a sting, she agreed with a police officer or whoever it was, might have been FBI, who was in on it to sell a 3-year-old, a 3-month-old baby, and like a freaking 6-year-old girl to this dude before. I mean, it's so twisted. It's so disturbing that, like, what the hell would they even do, right? With a 3 month, it's so like out of control that, like, I
Is it?
can't
Do
take
you
it.
think
Like,
they're selling these children on the black market and raising them, or is it more perverse than that? Like, it's like in your mind. Your mind. See, this is another one of those things where your mind doesn't let you work a certain way, right? Like we talked about that, like
and this is what stops
last
people
week.
from understanding. And this is what's like, people don't want to. There's It's almost like there's an off switch. Like, it's
There
so
is.
horrific that, like, people can't. They just can't. They can't wrap their head around it, and they look away, and,
Well, there
and they
is. There is
refuse
an off
to.
switch. There's an off switch. That's why psyops. We people don't believe them. People don't believe. You're a conspiracy theorist if you think the government is behind anything, because people don't want to believe. We had this conversation last week. People don't want to believe that schools don't have your children's best interest. They just don't want
Right.
to believe it.
Because
It's
everybody
just
knows a teacher or
right,
someone who's in the, and
right,
they don't really, they're like, no, I know some, they're nice and this and that.
right. Yeah,
And they don't realize
the
it's
first thing they
above
say
them.
is, "Oh, teachers are this, teachers are that," and I'm like, "You don't understand. It's not the teachers. It's the teachers that be handing down this
Right.
Project
In some
Veritas."
cases,
Actually,
it is the teachers, though. There
okay,
are
yes, but
teachers out there who
but
are like doo-doo-doos beyond
we're talking on a
friggin'.
big scale, though, right?
But,
Like
like, have
Project
you seen that?
Veritas,
Like, what is it? Something liberals of
libs of
TikTok or
TikTok. Yeah,
something
they're
like that.
awesome. They're incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the montage that they put together of, like, crazy ass teachers out there, like, there's so many of them. I mean, they must have put together like 50 of them in their own words, in their own videos, doing their own, and they're so, like, open about it that it can't, like, the culture in the school. If the culture in the school is against these things, these people are not posting stuff to TikTok like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like the culture in the school is absolutely okay. Makes that stuff okay.
Well,
It has to.
if you're following Project Veritas, their new what they're going after now is they're trying to expose teachers,
Yeah,
and they're
they put
actually
out 2
asking.
videos. I did a video
You
on
saw
one
them?
of them. Yeah.
They're actually putting out. They're actually asking kids to bring their phones to school, and like I have trouble with that sometimes, where like they don't
I
let my
don't.
kid.
My personal opinion, honestly, should be cameras. Cameras shouldn't have to, because there should be cameras in every
Oh no!
classroom.
What I was gonna say is I almost want my kid to have her phone on her. Like I know my kid has her phone on her in school because I see her pictures, and
Right.
I'll see like 1:30 in the afternoon she's taking pictures from inside of her desk of selfies. So yeah, I don't want my kid on her phone all day, but I also don't want it in the closet, or where if something happens, she can't film what's going on, or if she can. Worst case scenario, if there's an actual fire and they leave the school and her phone is there, and now she gets separated. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
just a full disclosure, mine are 11 and 12, so we're not talking 7 year olds.
Right.
Um,
No, I get you.
but it's
And I
it's
want to get to Tony's quote here. So everybody keeps jacking their jaws and keep talking and sitting on their ass hats doing nothing. What the heck is wrong with with people? What is that going to do? Shut up or get up. So, yeah, and Tony, I will tell you this. I agree with you. So, I mean, obviously, we're sitting here talking about it. So, I don't know if that's pointed directly at us, but at the same time, there's an element of this where, not everybody is talking about it. Not everybody is jacking their jaws, right? And I can tell you, when I went through, some 800 plus comments on the video we just dropped, a lot of them, there was some who came in and, oh, we already know this. Well, you already know this. But I can tell you right now that the majority of the comments in there are people generally saying, you know, holy crap, like, what the hell? And not having any idea that this is going on. And the thing is, everyone needs to, the first thing that needs to happen is people need to accept that this is real, that this is not, it's just like WEF and the Great Reset and all that. Like you can't, you know, we're at a point now where if you think that all these things are conspiracy theory, you're the crazy person. Right? Like you're, like, it's a conspiracy to think this is not a conspiracy. Like you're the nut if you're going through life thinking that this stuff is not happening, because it absolutely is. And that video was just a tease to what's going on. It was just designed to open up the eyes of those people who just won't accept it. And it's the same thing as Great Reset. Like WEF is out there telling you what they're doing. They're telling you. Like, when it comes to the border, the reason this border is happening is because the UN wants this to happen. All right. WEF and the leadership involved want this to happen. The reason your companies are so woke, the reason that Coca-Cola is putting out trainings that say be less white, and friggin' Disney is siding with pedophiles. The reason all this stuff is happening is because of ESGs, the environmental, social, and governance scores that they're being scored on. And I'm putting a video out just on that. I've already done one, but I'm doing a new one because that was like months ago and thousands of followers, and everybody needs to
Do
understand
you
that.
have George? Do you have Disney Plus? Do you subscribe to it
I don't, what it is? I think it comes free with
with one
some
of your packages? Anyway,
thing, but
full disclosure, I'm a big Star Wars fan and I watch it repeatedly, so I am a
but
subscriber.
it's almost like not fair, because you're a
But
Star Wars fan. But I am too. But like, you're a Star Wars fan before Disney takes over Star
right.
Wars, and
But
then it's like,
here's what happened today. I tried to log on just to download something for my flight tomorrow, so I could watch a movie on the flight. And you have to self-identify your gender in order to get on now. Like, you have to choose male, female, non-binary, or you could prefer not to say. But why do
yeah,
they
and
even
that's
care?
all WEF and
Like,
UN motivated.
why is that even a thing? Like, why
It's a
is it
thing because look, by having all of that, all this whole transgenders, 63 pronouns, all of this
87
garbage.
in San Francisco?
It's what?
There's 87. You heard about the income in San Francisco? They're giving money if you're transgender on the
Get out of
application.
here.
There's 80. Yeah,
You're saying they added another 30 pronouns?
there's 87 total on the application because you have to fill in the application. They're giving, what is it called? Guaranteed income, or
Oh, universal basic income.
yeah.
Another piece of there's oh my,
But there's
but they
I think
added.
there's 87 pronouns. Oh, 87 options to get money, to get $600 a month or whatever.
That's it. Hold it right there. Pronoun trouble.
I've been waiting for months to drop that, drop that clip, and you just served it up to me. But seriously, like, all of this stuff, the transgender, it's all designed. It's all designed to accomplish the same thing that every Marxist movement accomplished. Like, it's all designed to split families. That's the point. They tried gay marriage, and it didn't work. Everybody was like, like, there was some resistance, but then everybody was like, whatever. It's not that big a deal, and it just moved
Well,
on.
a
Oh,
lot
well,
of
that's
people
not gonna
believe
work.
there are a lot
So
of
then it was
people.
like, well, what if we send a guy in the women's room?
This
Like,
isn't new, though, George. This is, you'll hear a lot of people argue that the welfare state, and I grew up in the
no,
Bronx,
right.
and I
That's what
can
I'm saying. It's
the
going on for
welfare
70
state
years
was invented to, bro. You and I both
to
know
break
where
up
I
the
grew up
family.
was to break up the family. If you look at like African American families in general, it was like 63% in the '60s were like dual, husband wife families.
Right.
Now it's like, I don't even
70%
I don't even
are
want
out
to,
of wedlock right now, was the latest stat that I heard.
and
So
it's
it's
just,
but
and I
it's
know
not
it.
just them; it's everything in general. The idea, the entire process, and this is what Yuri Bezmenov was talking about in his interview. The entire process is designed, like, this child trafficking thing is some demonic, satanic stuff. And like, and Shavetta here says, they're buying these children to perform Luciferian SRA on them for their sick agendas. You know what? I believe an element of that. Like, there's definitely some satanic stuff. There's no, like, I'm done writing it off to coincidence that all these Hollywood people have all this symbolism, and all of this symbolism is out there in general. Back when I was debunking the whole Q thing, and like there were elements of that, like, that people, because the Q thing was like, it was Q does these drops, and then the Anons, like, are the ones that go haywire. Like, Q like puts some riddle, out there, and then everybody comes up with these bizarre theories about it. But like, But the human trafficking part of it, that was 100, like that was 100% valid. Like I validated almost everything that was dropped about human trafficking at the time. And like and that part of it, then it goes off the rails with like JFK is coming back and time warps and all this. But like I lost your audio. I lost your audio, Rube.
Sorry. That's why they do that. They put in these crazy things so that if you're like, listen, this is happening, they could be like, oh yeah, and you believe JFK is coming back too, right?
Right.
Sure.
And now the left are programmed to tell everybody, oh, you're that's some QAnon stuff. Like whenever you say something, they're like, oh, that's some QAnon stuff. The same way they relate everything to Trump. Like it's like that's now in the programming. And Q is probably some foreign operative. Like it's not like China and Russia don't know of all of this sick shit that goes on around the world. Like it's not like they don't know it all. They know all of it. Like they know every bit of it. More so probably than our own military people. Like the idea that it's not them to me seems kind of crazy. But the point is the human trafficking, like that's real deal and it's satanic, dude. There's a satanic element to it without a doubt. They just had this clothing line. I can't even pronounce the name of that friggin'
Balenciaga.
yeah, whatever. But
Balenciaga. Come on.
yeah, them.
Well, you don't have a $5,000 purse?
Yeah,
Nori doesn't
exactly.
buy $5,000 purses that look like garbage
Exactly.
bags.
They've got these videos of kids in outfits with penises on their nose and
But wait,
friggin'
so let's stop real quick. Let me just stop you for 1 second. Balenciaga. So if you don't know, they came out with a photo shoot, and the kids were holding bears, like Build-A-Bears, but dressed up. You go to Build-A-Bear, you could buy an outfit, but they had S&M clothing on, right? And then they also had the kids like laying down on the couch, like in front of this stuff. Then they also had a spread where it had a court case, and if you zoom in, because the internet sleuths zoom in, and it was from a court case being heard that says that child porn is a part of free speech, right? So they had all this in their ad. Now, mind you, Balenciaga was also partnered with Adidas, with Kanye West. When Kanye West said what he said, they got rid of him. Everybody dropped Kanye West like a bag of bricks, and no judgment whether it was right or not right what he said. That it's irrelevant. This stuff comes out and nobody says a word. Nobody says a thing. Nobody says a thing. It took Kim Kardashian 4 days to make a statement that
and
didn't
that
even.
only happens after there's outrage. Like
Oh yeah.
yeah, if there was no outrage, they would have just let that crap go on with no problem. But dude, there's so much of the symbolism with all the artists with the hand over the eye and like this pyramid, this friggin' eye, all seeing eye. Like the fact that it shows up in so many different places. I was able to pull up like 6 different versions of that DuckTales video that has the eye chart behind it
With
because
the
I didn't
Illuminati.
believe the first one that I saw. So I actually was pulling them up in other languages and not ones that were saying it's a conspiracy, like just like ones that were like doing it for children, like putting the cartoon out for children. And if you stop it at that moment, it absolutely is true that the eye chart does say ask about Illuminati. What the hell is that? Why would I don't care what the theory is as to why it's there, but I mean, as to whether or not it's there, it's there. Like it's 100% there. So then the question becomes why, right? And there's all these there's clips of Goofy real quick, like just flipping his skateboard over, but on the bottom of the skateboard, like he'll twirl it. But if you freeze frame it, there's an all-seeing eye on the bottom of the skateboard.
They just did it in their new TV show in I think it's called The Santa Clauses or something like that, and they had a picture where it said I love Santa or something. But
yeah,
if you
it's look.
if you freeze frame it, they didn't spell Santa right. If you freeze frame it, it said I love Satan. You know what I mean? And it's like
Oh wow, I
like
didn't
and
even
this
see
is
that one.
recent.
But
Yeah.
honestly, I've seen so many examples of this stuff that I don't have to even look that up. Like I'll just believe that it happened just to friggin', you know, just to move on. But like, I just, when I look at this stuff, it's like, it just baffles me. And now with the kids, it's like, for the love of God, like, what does it take? What does it take? Sandra Sullivan on Facebook saying a lot of parents don't want to be educated on human trafficking and say they couldn't handle this. Yeah, exactly. I get so mad because how can you not want the knowledge to save a child? And And this is the, look, everybody has something to contribute, right? Like in my case, like I know that I have this channel, and when I saw the Project Veritas piece and I started looking into it myself, and I realized how many people are in denial about this, in the end, like I was like, I have to do something and something to at least wake people up to what's going on. And so, because I have a channel, my voice was in the video and I was able to put that out. And fortunately for me, Facebook distributes my content where YouTube just does not. Like YouTube it's very difficult for me. And I don't know if it's because we have strikes on us, like YouTube. We've never been stricken on Facebook. We've never been stricken on Rumble. Obviously, we've never been stricken on Twitch. Well, I mean, I don't even know how many people watch us on Twitch, but like I mean, we usually get one, maybe two viewers on Twitch. I just go on because it's like, well, let's broadcast in the lion's den and see how it goes over there. But at the same time, Facebook has been very good to. I mean, they've shadow banned me a few times, which is pretty evident. But otherwise, like my stuff goes into Facebook Watch. So like they took that video on human trafficking and put it in Facebook Watch and allowed it to go wild. It's at like 65,000 views right now, or 70,000 views. It's been shared
Well,
5,000 times.
you know why that is? Why they're doing that now? Because their revenue is down too. And
But Facebook is never for the year and a half or so, or I guess yeah, about a year and a half we've been around. Facebook has never really given, like, every video that we got banned for on YouTube, and we've been stricken now. I think it's 4 times in total on YouTube, 4 maybe 5 times spread out over the year and a half. Actually, on the 10th, a strike expires for us on YouTube. We're under it right now, and so, but Facebook is, every video that YouTube is stricken like that, Facebook is not stricken. Like every one of them, they didn't get a ton of play because we were smaller, and it's just you gotta grow, right? You gotta get a base, you gotta get a following. But they didn't stop it, right? Like they didn't stop it from going out there. And like once we started, getting onto the Great Reset and started putting out content on the Great Reset, like they allowed it to go international. They allowed it to go, they allowed it to go wherever it went. Like they put it out there on. That's all I'm asking out of these platforms. Just put it out there. Make it one of the myriad of videos that are out there. And if it performs well, it performs well. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I find it hard to believe, Facebook, I could just drop a video even on human trafficking or anything, and it'll take off on its own. I don't have to go sharing it all over the place. I don't have to do all this extra work. I can just drop it and then the followers take over, right? YouTube, if I just drop a video on YouTube, like I'll drop a video on Facebook and it'll get like 30,000 1-minute views, which is like this, like the trigger. Like anything more than a minute is where they stop. They just say more than 1 minute view. And like it'll get like 15,000. I drop the same video on YouTube and it'll get, if I don't actively go share it everywhere, it'll get like 50 views, 60 views. So I'm like, you know, like there's just an element of it where I don't know if it's YouTube stopping it. I don't know if it's just that Facebook's a better platform for me, that, because people can interact more and share more and do stuff like that. But like it's just it just drives me a little bit nuts, that dealing with it, because you never know, right? You're like, does my content suck? Right? Like, is it me? And like then when Facebook started taking off, I was like, okay, it's not me, right? Like at least these 60,000 people or whatever didn't think it was me. So but Sandra, I agree with you 100%. Parents don't want to. This is what Ruben was saying before. Is that there's just that block where they just, it's so horrific that they don't want to admit that it's happening. But you know what? We have to admit that it's happening. And we
I
have to
put a
make
post.
changes.
I'll put a post in one of my one of my town websites, parenting sites, on Facebook, and I'll put a post about like our standardized testing scores or the SEL survey they're handing out, and I'll get 10 people arguing with me that this is crazy. You don't like teachers. You don't trust teachers. Blah 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 blah
Right.
blah. I put a post a couple months ago because in our town we wear uniforms and they're thinking of getting rid of them. So I put a post a couple months ago. What I say? I said the uniform discussion is back on the agenda at the Board of Ed meeting this month. 270 comments. You know what I mean? And I'm like, really? Like testing scores going down like they're down ridiculously is not a problem. But because your kid's not going to be wearing khakis, all of a sudden everybody comes out with pitchforks, and
I'm
I'm
a fan
talking
of school uniforms, man. I think it just brings that element of equality. Like, and when I say equality, I don't mean it. I mean it in a way where, like, you don't get the kids that are rocking the Gucci and this and that, like, and all like flashing
You know what
money, and
though? But like just on a side note, you know what's crazy nowadays? These kids, they don't dress. This young generation, they're not into like clothes like we are. These kids, the
I'm
style
not that into
nowadays,
clothes either. I
the
just
style nowadays is bummy though. Like that's the style
right.
is like to look like they have these dress up days or dress down days, whatever you call them. And these kids are in school in like sweatpants, like
Yeah,
pajama
but uniforms just to me, like, they just create like an everybody's on the same playing field type of deal. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's just number one, they'll look professional, right? That like they'll look like they're going somewhere, right?
right.
Like casual has kind of infiltrated everything. And I'm not a I there's some things that I like it in. There are other things where I'm like, I kind of look at the old movies and stuff where like people used to dress up for just about everything, right? Even when they were even when they were home just having a scotch and smoking a cigar, there was a smoking jacket that you wore, right? Like it was just an element of professionalism in life, that kind of got lost with all this madness. But I guess, look, in the end, it kind of is what it is. But let me see. I got a couple of comments here I want to try and get to. So try and grab someone who hasn't been up yet. So no pressure power washing LLC. So that's because liberals have taken over the DHHS, yeah, and the school system. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So and that's exactly,
Well,
look,
you know how I feel about the Board of Education.
it's all
That
connected though,
we
right?
don't need.
It's all
There's no
connected.
reason we have a Board of Education. None. Zero. Zip. Zilch. There's not. The Board of Education was created in 1980, and you can't show me one metric that our kids are better in from 1980 in school wise. You just can't. You just can't. There's not a single one.
Yeah,
Not one.
but the thing is, and you know what though, like even looking at the '80s though, like the grammar schools and such were not in play in the '80s. Like it was the universities that were in play, because they hadn't actually gotten it down to the high schools and the grammar
Well,
schools
because they
until the
hadn't trained
recent decade.
the teachers yet.
Right, and that's
But
what I mean. So like,
they had to start with the colleges to
right,
train the
right.
next generation of teachers, and each generation you could go down more and more and more and more and more.
Right, and the thing is, none of us were really paying attention, but like Hollywood was just as effed up back then. Like I sit here, I mean, I was into a bunch of different genres in the '80s because there was just so much new music genres coming out that it was just, you had hip hop being born, you had heavy metal coming to life, and you had all these different styles of rock and roll and whatnot. But when I look back at it now, knowing what I know now, like, I was telling this to my brother, and at first he was like, no freaking way. But I think he's a little more open minded to it now. Like we need to eat our humble pie too. There's a lot of satanic crap going out from Hollywood back in the '80s that nobody paid attention to. Like Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil, Black Sabbath. There was a lot. Now hip hop in its early days, was just street, right? It was just what they claim it is today, which it's not. But in the '90s, once the producers got hold of it, the content absolutely changed. The content in hip hop just absolutely went downhill.
No,
You
no,
still had
look,
talented
here's
people,
what
but they were
happened with hip
talking
hop.
about garbage. Like Biggie Smalls, I know you like him, but you know what? Not one song from that guy was not content wise
Okay,
garbage.
so here's what happened, and I can attribute the quote where it all changed, right? Because hip hop got a bad rap in the beginning too. Because in the beginning there was gangster rap too, we just didn't hear it. There was people like Scooby
Hardcore
D.
rap in the '80s was like Public Enemy. It was
No,
like
no,
politically
no, 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 no,
hardcore.
no, no, no,
There was
no. Let
some
me
there was
explain.
some stuff out there, but a lot of it was metaphors,
There was
like my mouth is the gun on
no. Hear
suckers
me,
that
hear
pull the
me out,
trigger,
because I'm
whatever.
gonna agree. I'm gonna show you what I mean. There was like PSK, and it wasn't really popular rap that you heard. It was
Right.
like
And that's my point
PSK,
though.
but but they would point to
I
that,
don't
right?
even know who
So
PSK was.
uh, PSK, what does this mean? People always say, "What the hell is that?" But that's my point. Like there was bad rap back then. It was getting a bad rap, and this is when it changed. KRS One turned around because even he started with the 9 millimeter and this and that until Scott LaRock got killed. And he one time he said if hip hop has the power to influence our children to do wrong, then it has the power to influence our children to do right. And that's when he came out with Heal. I don't know if you remember Heal, self destruction, self
Yeah, yeah,
destruction.
yeah,
He
yeah,
came out
yeah.
with Heal. And that's when Public Enemy shifted their hardcore rap to be more, it was more
But even Public Enemy's
enlightening.
hardcore was just like
It was
political
But
activism.
that's what it was. And then what happened was the A&Rs took over and they said, whoa, 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 whoa. Somebody listened to KRS-One and they are starting to change this. And that's when they came in and said, here's NWA. We're not going to let you do something. KRS-One has been saying a lot of this stuff that they
That's
talking about
fine.
now
Look, in the end, though,
20 years ago.
they were all products of their culture, the same way the heavy metal guys were products of their culture, and the
But
same way
but
the
here,
slam
my point
dancers
is
and punk
there
guys
were
were a part of their culture.
here
And
stop.
every one of them,
Here,
unwillingly or unknowingly, however you want to say it, just
but
like
it
the
wasn't.
people
Listen,
now,
listen. It's like any
were
artist, right?
breaking down the
Artists
morality of the
don't.
country.
The artists don't decide who's a hit maker. So there was conscious rap, but the A&Rs, the radio station says, I'm not playing that guy.
Right.
I'm playing the
Right.
guy
But
that's talking about
this is what I'm
guns. I'm
saying,
talking
though.
about the guy. So if you want to make money, you had to talk about that. So it's the same thing with everything else.
Right,
It's the
but
same
rap
thing
is
with
just a small
nowadays.
piece of this. Like rap is just another it's just another genre that Hollywood took over and created more immorality. And that's look at and Shavetta says here, public schools are only meant to indoctrinate children to follow through in their matrix of a slave system. Yeah, it's a Marxist thing, right? So in the end, it's a Marxist thing. The whole thing is a
But when you
Marxist
talk
thing.
about
Like when you listen to
indoctrination,
Yuri break it down, like he's telling you, by the time the '80s rolled around, there were already, the hippies were the first. It was the late '60s that the first indoctrinated, the first demoralized generation by Soviet standards was born. By the first trained generation of anti-America, pro-Marxist, generation was formed in the '60s, and that never went away. And yeah, there was a backlash in 1980, and that's what got Reagan elected, and that's what made him kill it in his second election. He won almost 49 states, or did win 49 states. The fact of the matter is, though, the universities didn't slow down one bit. And there was still pumping these people out there. And these people, these quote unquote intellectuals, who are some of the dumbest and most dangerous people on the planet, were just spreading this nonsense everywhere until the point where they own the media, they own politics, they owned Hollywood, they owned everything. And messaging from all angles was coming in one way and still is to this day. It's just progressively, to keep with the term, got worse. It's the progressives just made things progressively worse. And now we're at a point where men are having babies, and there are two generations who believe that that's a normal thing. And two generations, if not more, who don't even understand what free speech is. They don't even understand what it is.
well, that brings us to the Twitter files, right?
It does, and that's kind of where I was trying to go with this. Is like you've got you've got Twitter files, you've got Elon Musk buying this company, and it's a mind screw for all these people, right? It's a mind screw. Like they can't. They're so used to controlling the narrative on the internet, but it's not even that. It's not even like everyone thought originally. Like, oh, it's all about what they're afraid of is conservatives being able to speak on Twitter. Like, I'm still not going on Twitter because I hate Twitter. I think the platform sucks. It's complicated. It's not nearly as simple as everybody makes it sound. I try to
It's
reply to stuff. I
accessible.
have no idea where the reply goes. Like nothing is compact and put together, and it's been a crappy platform. We created an account there when Elon Musk first bought it, and it's still sitting there. And I have invested about zero energy in trying to grow a following on Twitter and try and grow that account. I log in maybe once every few weeks. Like, I just could care less. I could care less. And the more I read on Twitter, the more idiocy I see in the world. Like, and if something meaningful, like some significant thing gets dropped on Twitter, it's going to become news anyway, and I'll find out about it. I don't need to read through all the stupidity and idiocy that this minute tiny portion of the population propagates. And that, in the very beginning when we started this channel, like I did some research into Twitter as to just how many people are actually on it. Like how much of it is real. And they even acknowledge themselves only 10% of the people who actually comment and interact are 10% of their total accounts do that. And then you got to factor in, all right, well, of that 10%, how many are bots? So I mean, and not on top of that, their subscriber base in general is not even in the stratosphere of like a Facebook or an Instagram or a YouTube, or like it's not even on the planet with those types of social networks. So like you're looking at 10% of the smallest subscriber base of the major social networks. We're talking about nobody. We're talking about no one. Like why Trump chose Twitter to do what I know he wanted to do. He wanted to be like Reagan and speak directly to the people. He's just too stupid with technology to understand that Twitter is the absolute worst way for a president to do that. Like if Reagan were president now, you'd be seeing freaking Facebook drops and or you'd see something on Twitter, but it'd be a video of him in the Oval Office delivering a message straight to the people. And that video would get shared God
We
knows
don't
how
even
many
have
times.
those anymore. Remember we were kids? Reagan would do those all the time. He would come on
Right.
the
He would just,
Thursday
but
night.
they didn't have Twitter, right? So
All
he
of
would
a
just
sudden,
cut
no
off.
Cosby tonight. It was like, nope,
Right.
whiskey,
I'd be
go
watching
watch
the A
Cosby.
team, like
Yeah.
getting all into it, and friggin' they stop it in the middle of the show, like, we have a message from the president of the United States today. I'm like, oh man, I'm like, what the heck? But you know what? It was effective. Like he decided he was going to bypass the media because the media, for those that are younger, the media was no different back. Like the media has always been about at least my entire lifetime. They've been a bastion for liberal causes. It's
But
what
you
they
know
are.
what's different? Like what was different, and I don't know. Maybe I was young and naive. Like what's different is like everything else. Because yes, the news. I agree with you, but at the same time, it's like you can't watch anything nowadays without hearing some like let's take the nightly comedy shows. You know what I mean? Like I always felt like Costin was equally great at just making fun of everybody. He made fun of everybody. Now it's Jimmy Kimmel comes on and says outright, he says, no, I'm here for he admits he's not even a comedy show anymore. He admits he's just a really bad MSNBC. Like he doesn't even hide it. You know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
His show is a joke. It's just like Colbert. Like it's the same garbage. But like, and no pressure power washing says here NWA. I put that up because he's right. That was a turning point in hip hop as well. And when NWA came out successfully, and was able to sell with the stuff that they were putting out. Now in NWA's defense, a lot of what NWA was rapping about, as crazy as it was, really was what they were dealing with every day. It wasn't the, as I call them, what was it, main source, the fake and
Did
the
you
funk people.
did you
Like,
watch
like
the
they were,
NWA movie?
what's that?
Did you watch the NWA movie?
No. With the
It was
exception
actually
of
very
Dre,
good.
though, I think the rest of them were really living that life. Like Dre wasn't living that life. But like,
But my point is NWA didn't put out NWA. They're
you're saying they were created.
yeah,
Right.
let
But
me put it this
as
way.
they all
Let me
are.
put it this way. There's 9 million NWAs, but they picked this one and put them out. You know what I mean?
Right.
They
Right.
they
Right.
if NW like remember
But a
like
lot of that is like showmanship and stuff.
but
Like who's going to
but
rep,
then like you know who Mob Deep is?
I do.
They were the same thing. They came out with gangster rap and blah 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 and this, and they were all thugged out. Blah blah. When they first came out, they were bouncy hip hop, and they couldn't make it, so they had to switch because their little bouncy dancey hip hop. Jay
Right.
Z put a
Dre was
picture of
wearing tights and stuff,
Jay
right?
Z put a picture of Prodigy on the Summer Jam screen wearing a ballerina outfit because when he was a kid he danced ballet. You know what I mean? These kids were growing up to be actors. They were all
Right.
CB4. That's what it was. You remember CB4? That's what they was.
Right. Right. And then Chevetta says the rappers in our prison, or why our prisons are filled, and they're able to trade money to the private prison system. They know exactly what they were doing with rap culture. Yeah, once the man, so to speak, once like the globalists got hold of rap culture, it just became another tool for the WEF. I mean that like every other genre, like it's
To
no
be fair,
different.
the prisons were plenty full before rap. You know,
Yeah, there was no shortage of people filling prisons, but
I
like
mean, the 14th
in the
Amendment filled up
end,
the prison system. Let's be honest. You
no,
know, it
for
was,
sure, for sure. But like like Tom McDonald has a jam called "You Can Blame the Rappers," and I love the jam, and the reason I love it is because it's something you don't hear being acknowledged, and most people don't want to acknowledge who are either in the genre or love the genre. That there's a lot, and I don't blame rap music in and of itself, but the fact that it was taken over by these people and that this is what they preach is taking Xanax, doing drugs, doing whatever, calling
but
women
again, like
bitches,
I want to defend, and
hoes.
let me put it this way, and honestly, it's perverted everything. We don't have any artists anymore. We don't have any true creators anymore. We don't have any true politicians anymore. Everybody is just an actor. Everybody is just an actor. All of these rap groups, they're just
No, right. That's
acting.
what I'm saying. It's all a part of the Hollywood
I mean,
scheme. Like it's these guys get control of it, and it just becomes another tool to demoralize the nation. Like, and it's been going on for so long that we like I joke with people and say, the folks way back when, right? And everyone uses this as the example. Like, well, when you see something like perverse, and you're like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is on national TV. This is on. Yeah, well, come on. Think about it, right? This is the way that you thought. Like one day they used to say Elvis shouldn't wiggle his hips, and I'm like, he shouldn't have. He
but so
shouldn't have.
there
Those
are
people should have
actors.
won that argument. And if
There are
those people could
actors.
grab the other people who were against him in that day, and both of them time travel to now and see what happened, you can bet your ass Elvis wouldn't be wiggling his hips.
But there are actors, there are a lot of child actors that decided, you know what, this isn't for me. I don't want to play this game. And they're gone. They're gone. You never hear of them again.
Right.
You never
No,
hear
I,
of them
I
again
get
because
that.
they don't want to get into it.
There are people in the business. Mel Gibson was one of them. Like Mel Gibson walked, not a child actor, but he was one of the actors that walked away and and made his own shit. And he was big enough that they couldn't stop him. Like he was able to just produce Passion of the Christ at things that he wanted to do without, Braveheart and whatnot. He was banned through all that. Like when Braveheart came out, he did that whole thing himself. The Patriot,
Oh, he was already banned by Braveheart?
yeah.
Oh,
They,
I
they
didn't know
didn't
that.
like him from the get-go because he never gave in. And that's why you see he became a director. that's why Braveheart was made and produced by him. That's why friggin' The Patriot made and produced by him. Passion of the Christ made and produced by him because he wasn't giving into all that. And Brian Specht here says, "How's Truth Social?" So Truth Social, in my opinion, Brian, I'm just going to give my honest opinion on Truth Social, as we did sign up for Truth Social as well, and I hung around there for a little while, looking around, just checking the place out, seeing what the decor was like. And I got to tell you, one, I didn't like it because it was like Twitter. Like it was almost identical to Twitter in its formatting with the at this and follow that and you got to reply, but you never really see your reply and like all that.
You know you can go
For
to
the same
you can
reason.
go to tweets and replies, right?
What's that?
No,
No, I don't. I don't,
have
Ruben, because I
we'll
didn't
have a
spend enough
sidebar and
time.
I'll teach you how to use Twitter.
No, I don't really want to know because I'm already over it. Like the thing is, when I got on Facebook for the first time, I knew how to use it. It was intuitive. It was easy to use. I got it. Like you
I
leave a
wish we could
comment,
just can we
all the
just bring
comments
back
are here.
MySpace?
And then you got all this retweeting and all this. And again, the thing about Twitter to me was the lack of actual real people on it. Like that's really where it just was like, dude, there's not even anybody relevant. Like these are all Hollywood people and whatnot. They all treat it like it's this big deal, and the media acts like it's the biggest thing ever, but it's not. It's a joke. It's a joke. So True Social, for its format purpose, I didn't like. But what I really didn't like about it is it's an echo chamber. Like it's literally like, yeah, it's free. Anybody can say what they want, but they don't. like because the only people on there are Trump supporters. It's just like a place for now. If you feel like you need to, if you want to get your Trump on and get on there and start promoting Trump and doing your thing, yeah, it's a great platform for that. But it's
Did
like
you hear what
literally
happened
a
on
Trump
Twitter last
rally.
night?
What's that?
Did you hear what happened on Twitter last night? a big commotion in the East Coast over here in New York. So, Twitter's kind of like it's become a place where everybody wants to be the first one to say something. All of these journalists. So this John Heyman, he's a sports reporter, I think for the New York Post. He reported last night that, from what I hear, that Judge had signed with the Giants. Right? Judge didn't sign with the Giants. And a minute later, he had to retract his tweet and delete it and said, "I jumped the gun." And obviously, I don't know if you heard, Judge re-signed with the Yankees this morning, but it created this stir of like just
Right.
like memes and things and people going crazy. The sports radio lady going crazy. Oh man! But that's what it's just become. It's just become, I'm first. I'm gonna say this first. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. And that's, that's where they're at now, though. Like this whole like, oh well, this is debunked because there's a tweet, and I was like, what do you mean it's debunked because there's a tweet? Like it's a tweet. Like, did anyone look into it? Did anybody like, it's a tweet. Like the fact that they look at tweets like they're somehow legitimate. Like, I don't care who tweets it. I don't care.
Well, you know
It,
what bothers me the most? The news uses Twitter. That's why I say Project Veritas is literally the only investigative journalism out right now. When we were
no, they're
getting
they're there, Ruben. I actually did a piece on this. There's Michael Young. There's Andy Ngo, who does the Andy
Andy,
Fox.
I know, but as
There's
far as like,
Michael Young does a lot of the border stuff, man. He's a lot of source material on the border stuff. Lara Logan is still out there rocking. She's been, banned from just about everywhere, but she's rocking truth out there, man. She's rocking
that's how
truth.
you know. That's how you know they do investigative journalism. They've been banned.
Right. No, absolutely. That's
And
for
you know
sure.
what's funny?
You're not going to find one on Fox or on, any of the, who you'll find on Fox who I actually believe, and I actually watched a piece where he was just being interviewed like at his house, was Tucker Carlson. Like Tucker Carlson clearly, now he went ahead and stated this in this interview. It was like a YouTube interview. It was like a side interview. But like he stated it then, what I had believed just from watching him and the change in him from the old days of Crossfire with Greta Van Susteren on CNN and whatnot. And then he eventually came to Fox. But like he, like me, used to believe, right? He and I say this all the time. Like, once you're gonna see, the first thing you have to do is eat some humble pie. I don't care if you're the most devout patriot or if you're the biggest Marxist. If you're actually going to pay attention and really see what's going on, don't be that person who swears they're always right, because you're not. I guarantee you, whatever the hell it is that you think you believed in, you're not. Like in the end, yeah, where there's some people out there who like were barking this stuff about WEF on their annual Davos meetings, like in the 90s. Yeah, there were some, but few, like very few. Like you came across one there was no internet, and you weren't hearing it from anybody. Like the bottom line is, everybody needs to swallow some humble pie and realize that they've been duped, because they did this thing, they pulled this thing off masterfully. And the fact of the matter is, it's like Yuri said in that 1984 interview, America is at war. And he was saying that in 1984. He's like, you're at war against against the traditions and your country and your society, all of it, your values. There's a war going on, and you don't know it. But the other side is absolutely on the offensive, and they have been so ever since. And everyone needs to stop and realize that at some point, because honestly, the people who are not affected by this are mostly dead right now. Pretty much everybody. I mean, there are some of the greatest generation left, but in the end, and boomers, I guess technically weren't raised that way, but in the end, everybody under a boomer was raised under this.
Let me ask you something. When we talk about political indoctrination, like, do you think anything that like I saw something once that said saying the Pledge of Allegiance is indoctrination. You know what I mean? And
Right.
because like I like to play both sides, devil's advocate. I like to,
Sure.
my beliefs, what they are is like I always say, my conservatism is based on liberal beliefs, like the anti-abort, like the anti-immigration thing is like I'm anti-immigration because I see it as a road to slavery. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
with what it is, right?
But
You
like
know,
for those who say the Pledge of Allegiance is
well, I mean, like
indoctrination, like
the day after, right? Remember watching the day after when we were in like fourth grade. You know what I mean? Like, there was no reason when I was in fourth grade I should have watched that movie. Like,
right,
do you remember
right,
that what
right,
I'm talking about? Like, there's no,
right.
no my fourth grader. There's no way I would let her watch a movie that said this is how the world is going to end, and you better be prepared to live in a basement for the next 7 years,
Well,
and then you're going to walk out and
that's a
it's
big
going to
part of the
be,
narrative, right?
you
That's how they keep those generations in line. So it is
I
what it
mean,
is,
it
I
was our
guess.
parents too, right? My mother used to have to go. I forgot what she used to tell me. They had the bomb. The bomb drills. Are the bomb drills any different than the active shooter drills? My kid goes through active shooter drills. My mom
And
went
it's the
through bomb
dumbest thing
drills.
ever because the kid knows the drill. Whoever's shooting knows the drills because he's from your school.
Well,
So you're
not only
doing the
that,
drills with the
my
shooter.
mom, they used to joke around about it. I mean, you saw the videos of a nuclear attack where the houses would be obliterated. My mother
Right.
used to say they would be underneath their desk, and the joke was, "Put your head between your knees and kiss your ass goodbye because you're gonna die anyway." You know
Right.
what I mean? But
But the
so
climate
like,
narrative has more purpose though. Like the commie narrative was basically they really thought like, hey, this is what you got to do. Like, you know what
oh,
I'm saying?
what
Like,
did you say? The climate narrative?
yeah, it's its purpose is totally different.
Do you mean
Like
the
the
climate
purpose of the
change
climate
narrative?
narrative, yeah,
Oh,
that
don't get me started. Don't get me
that
started.
whole now, but that's what I'm saying. When they do those like active shooters, I get it. That's one thing. Like it's ridiculous. But the climate narrative is no different. Like, what it does is it create both of them fall in the same category of one thing. They create what's called free floating anxiety. And that's something this whole watch my stuff on mass formations, dude, because I did a lot of stuff on mass formations. This guy, Dr. Mateus Desmond, breaks down exactly how they form and he explains why people do the irrational stuff that they do. Like why people will argue about why it's right to take off your mask when you get up, put it back on when you sit down. Like they not only believe it, but they'll fight
Well,
for it.
to this day, like and I said this in 2020 when they were like, "Why do you think they're doing this?" I always said it was an experiment to see how much they could
It's a
get
test
people to
run.
do. Yeah,
It's a test run. Absolutely. There's no
you know,
doubt about it.
and it's funny. Somebody
Whether they
said something.
actually unleashed it on purpose, I don't know. But
I'm
once it was unleashed,
I
it's
was
a
in my
test run.
I was in my middle school a couple weeks ago. I'm coaching basketball, so I was in the middle school, and I was walking around, and they had what book they had? What was the Al Gore book? An Inconvenient Truth. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
that Al Gore
Yeah.
wrote the book. So if you read that book now, basically, I shouldn't be able to read that book now because where I live should be under 6 feet of water, right? Like,
Right.
so that book just debunks that book. Just read that book and it debunks climate crisis because climate change. You could say like climate change is real. Climate change is real. Climate has always been changing, right? So now I forgot. Somebody put something on
But they
Facebook
need them
yesterday.
scared, right? And
Right.
that's the
Well,
thing.
and here's the thing. They put something.
When they say we're gonna shut down half the farming in the Netherlands,
They just
right?
did.
Right, no, I know. But when they make that announcement, they need those two generations to be like,
Well, it's gonna save me.
yeah, you got to do it. It's going to save me. Like that. That's these people believe that. Like
So
the climate cult is real. Like that's not.
Facebook put a fact check on some guy running for state senate. I follow him, and he put something about climate crisis, and they put a fact check that says climate change is real. And click here, and we'll show you why. So I like to play their game and click here to see you why, because sometimes it's like he used a double negative. That's why his thing is wrong. Like they'll judge the
Oh, the
grammar, right?
best was when they fact checked prophecy and said that patent that the Homeland Security did for that tattoo. They're like, people were saying it's the mark of the beast because it was
Oh
made
yeah,
with that
yeah, the market, yeah.
bioluminescent luciferase, which it is, which is creepy enough. But when they fact checked it, they didn't say that they're not making a skin tattoo, an invisible tattoo with luciferase that they patented it. What they said was it's not the mark of the beast. It's like
So anyway,
really, so
the the
you
fact
know
check
that.
that came up about climate change, it said climate change is real, and here's why. Click here. So I clicked on it, and it says, "Would you like to see why the temperature where you live has changed in the last 30 years?" Let's look at it. So I clicked on it, right? And sure, the average temperature in New Jersey has risen by like 8 degrees over the last 30 years, whatever. But what that doesn't take into account is if you have an area that's covered with trees, covered with parks, covered with farmland, that area is gonna be less. It's gonna not
The
be as
whole
hot.
thing's a racket.
But that's
Look,
what I mean. My point is, like, even their fact check is like,
there's
this
a
is
million.
bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. The
Like,
fact
yes,
checks, I stopped even reading
New
them because
Jersey
they're
is a
so
lot more
laughable.
urban than it is, but this is what the kids see. The kids see, oh, you know what?
But
And then
now,
people will tell me your temperature has gone up by 10 degrees over the last 30 years. Yeah, there's a lot more asphalt here than there was 30 years ago in New Jersey. You know what I mean? Which
yeah,
increases
yeah.
the local temperature. You know it.
No, I
You
hear
know what I
you.
mean? We played
Look,
on
I've
we played
always
on the
known it was
streets.
BS. So I've never once bought into the climate narrative ever.
Well,
But I
you know
want to
what?
touch this thing from Brian Specht here. He says, "How about Dan Bongino or Jesse Waters? I think Fox is different depending on what part of the country you're watching, or what country. Seems to be different in, is that in California. So Jesse Waters and Dan Bongino. So Dan Bongino to me, like their hearts are in the right place. Like I don't think but I think and Dan Bongino probably less than Jesse Waters, but a lot of these guys, like even Brett Baer and these different actors on Fox, like these people have been in journalism and around this stuff for so long, right? Where and Jesse Waters came up through this. So like he came up through the O'Reilly basically, show that got him on the map. And so they believe when the sources that they have, I don't know the best way to put this. They believe the sources that they have. So if a story breaks, like Brett Baer or Jesse Waters or any of these guys, they'll go to the colonel who always contributes to the show and has military experience and will break down for them, and they believe whatever the colonel tells them. Now the problem with these guys, and this is what makes Fox useless to me, is that when the colonel says something, he's being genuine. He believes what he's telling them. However, the people that are telling the colonel this stuff are planting that information. Like this is a game that's been going on forever, and it's the fact that they don't know it. Like these people trust their sources, and what they don't realize is that the government is well aware of who their sources are, and the government is not the government or anybody else are not going to give those sources information. If they do, it's usually the wrong information, and there's no way to prove otherwise. So these guys will go out, they'll report it, they'll mean it, and they're sincere, because you can't tell them otherwise they won't be sincere. You'll get that guy who says, I'm not reporting this is not true, and blah 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 blah. They have to believe it. And these guys believe it. Dan Bongino a little less than Jesse Waters, but honestly, Tucker's the only one that in my opinion thinks for himself.
I personally don't watch really any news. I really don't.
I watch Tucker on YouTube. I don't watch him on Fox.
Me too. I catch Bongino and I like him, but I like him not. So
I like
much
Bongino too.
Not so much for his reporting, but I just think he's funny. Like
Bongino's just a guy. You listen to Bongino the same reason you would listen to somebody like me or anyone else. Yeah. You're getting his take on the story.
That's what I mean.
Getting his opinion on the story.
None of these guys really do any investigating.
Right. He's not going to break news to you.
They're just
He's
commenting
not
on other shit they see.
But like Tucker breaks stuff. Like Tucker talks about
Tucker's
things.
Also in the 9 p.m. time slot, right, or the 8 p.m.
I hear you, but the point is, they all have enough money to have investigative teams and to do what they need to do.
But they don't.
Well, Tucker does, though. That's what I'm saying. So, like, Tucker will turn around. Tucker will talk about stories that you're not hearing anywhere else. Like he'll start talking about. He'll talk about the Brazilian elections before they happen and before they're a story. And he'll talk about, like, you'll hear things from him that you won't hear from everybody. You'll never hear an in-depth story on Brazilian elections, which were corrupt as hell. You're not going to hear that on Jesse Waters. You're just not going to hear that. You'll never, ever hear that story on Jesse. What you'll get on Jesse Waters is like the Biden administration this, the Biden administration that. Look at what they're doing, the Biden administration. Look at it. And it's like, dude, like all of that stuff to me now is noise. Like ever since discovering Article 5, all of that stuff is noise. All of it. Every bit of it. I don't care what Biden's doing. I don't care what new thing the Democrat House, what new bill they're trying to squeeze through. Like it's all noise to me.
Explain just real quick, because I've been sharing a lot of our stuff now on Facebook to my followers, and I don't know if anybody's out there watching, but I did share. Oh, I do have somebody I think watching. Not sure, but she at least liked the post. let's and I just because I'm new to cars and everything. Let's just break down like what are the like how does this fix it? Like how does cars you
So
know straight line? How does it fix
right.
all of this bullshit? How does it
So
fix it?
so here's the thing, right? So cause is limited. So for those that don't understand what convention of states is, if you're going to watch us, you need to know what it is. If you're going to watch my stuff, you should know what it is because you're going to hear me mention it a lot. It's under Article 5 of the United States Constitution that which is the section of the Constitution which explains how it can be amended. And there are two ways to amend it, and only one has really been used. So the one that has been used is two-thirds
Through
of the House,
through the
two-thirds of the
legislature,
Senate.
right?
They vote on a proposal for the language and all that. Once they both approve it, they give it to the states, and then it takes a supermajority of states to ratify it. So in this case, we have 50 states. The supermajority is three quarters. It would be 38 states. So that's how it usually has always been done. However, there's a second clause under Article 5 that eliminates the federal government from that process whatsoever. The federal government's completely, this is unique to the United States. So in order to eliminate Congress, what happens is the states will petition to call for a convention. So each independent sovereign state will place, and there are 19 of them right now. We need two-thirds, the same as you need in Congress. It's two-thirds. There's 34 states in total to call the convention. What it would do, okay, is they select delegates. And once 34 states petition Congress, Congress, according to the Constitution, shall call a convention. They don't have a say in the matter. It's just a formality. They call it. Convention gets called. Delegates are chosen, and on each one of the resolutions that the states pass, there are topics. Now, this is why I explained all this, because those topics, it matters. So the topics are all that the delegates can really discuss. So the delegates will go. Now, the topics are fairly broad, but they're all involved restricting the power of the federal government. So there are no topics in there that are going to allow them to expand that power. And even if they did, it would be out of order because that's not what is in the resolution. So they show up, they debate the different topics, conceptualize the amendments, come back to the states, present it, and the states can ratify it. Once ratified, it's a part of the Constitution. Now, that's not, I say that as if it's easy. It's not easy to get 38 states to agree on anything. However, how this can help, to go back now that I've explained what it is, how this can help. This particular convention, the topics are term limits for all government officials, not just the elected, for everyone, deep state. In the second is fiscal restraints. Think balanced budget amendment. Think repealing the 16th Amendment. Balanced budget amendment is the core one that will likely get ratified out of a convention, right? But we're trying to go for 16th Amendment being repealed, which is income tax, right, et cetera. So they're really free. The delegates are really free to sit down and get creative as to how to restrict the power under those subjects. Okay, it's the states that are then going to decide what gets through and what doesn't.
But
Right?
these amendments, they wouldn't be like these pork bills. These would be very straightforward, one
Mark
object.
Meckler promotes, as do I, a single subject amendment where you just state in
It
the
has to be a single
Constitution.
subject. This is what it
Right.
is. Like the
Right.
Bill of
No
Rights,
veterans bills that then on the back end of them have all
right?
kinds of
Right.
freaking,
Like
ridiculous spending on
the
transgender stuff. And
the
then
Maxine
like,
Waters special. You mean like let's
right,
name a
right,
post office, and while we're
right.
at it, it's going to
So
give
that's
800,000 to this cause.
right. And mind you, they could have resolution topics be very specific, right? They could do that. I know, one of my buddies now, Kenneth Quinn, over on Article 5, All Things Article 5 YouTube channel. He's an advocate for being more specific because like he feels like that's going to get through easier than being more general. And I agree with him to an extent. I just think the first one needs to be more general because there need to be a lot of changes, and the changes need to be sweeping, right? So if now it, think of it this way in scope of the Great Reset, right? So, and the last one, I'm sorry, was government overreach. So government overreach of authority. So, which is basically saying knock the federal government back to the 10th Amendment, to only what's outlined, right? So the 10th Amendment is where it says any powers not specifically given to the federal government in this Constitution belong to the states. But yet the federal government has gotten its hand in just about everything, right? It's gotten its hand. Lord knows we just talked about child safety, right? It's gotten its hands in education. It's gotten its hands in healthcare. It's gotten its hands everywhere where it has no business being. So the goal of that particular one, shut down the Department of Education, shut down the regulatory agencies in general. They're unconstitutional. Like those are responsibilities that belong to the states. And too long, those organizations like OSHA and the mask mandates and all this, too long, those organizations are used to inflict unconstitutional regulation from unelected officials onto the population and negatively impacting them. And whether or not they get overturned or shot down eventually doesn't matter. The damage is usually done. So like by the time that happens, in other words, you look at like the vaccine mandate, right? So it got shot down, but in the 6 to 8 months or whatever it was for that to get shot down, how many millions of people who did not want to take a vaccine took one because they were afraid they were going to lose their job, right? So they don't and that's the way these regulatory agencies are used. It's like, we know it's unconstitutional, but we're going to do it because we only need to do it for 6 or 8 months, and it's going to take that long for the Supreme Court to shoot it down. And so eliminating these would be huge. Okay. You get rid of the Department of Education, you break that unholy relationship between states and federal government for education. And now that the critical theory garbage is gone. Now it's back to the localities, and the state legislators are going to have to wake up and learn how to run a state, right? This whole relationship of getting bribed to keep pumping this garbage into our classrooms will come to a close because there won't be anyone to bribe them. There won't. It'll be unconstitutional for the federal government to even get involved in education, right? So that's one way, right? Now you look at fiscal restraints, right? If they have to balance a budget, all right, if they have to balance a budget by constitution, which is one thing that I'm just stunned that the founders never. But anyway, if that's written clearly in the Constitution, they have to do it. Modern monetary theory goes out the window, which means the WEF can't fund anything that it wants to do. Anything. It's all over. Like all of that, the whole concept of modern monetary theory is just a constant printing of money and running deficits as a budgetary tool. That's gone. That's gone with a balanced budget amendment. Okay. Now let's say we were able to get the 16th Amendment repealed, right? All right. Well, how many people are upset about the unholy relationship between corporations and politicians, right? Now, there'll always be some attempts at that relationship happening no matter what happens. But if you eliminate income tax, you eliminate politicians' ability to pay back. They have no way to pay back. If you go to a straight consumption tax, there's nothing that the politician has to offer. Nothing. Like you could say, donate to me all you want, but I can't give you those loopholes and tax breaks that I always give you. Because there's nothing to tax. The IRS is shut down. It's no longer necessary. Everything is paid over the counter, right? Everybody pays taxes. Even the guy begging for money on the street, going to go buy his beer, is going to pay taxes, right? Everybody's paying federal income taxes, and the wealthy still pay more, right? But the point of the matter is because they're buying bigger stuff, right? And you can put your luxury taxes if you want, whatever, but it's going to be on consumption. It's not going to be on income. All right. So what is that? That allows people to succeed, right? And in the end, that alone would have a massive impact. And now the government, every projection is the government collecting in a massive amount of funding if we were to switch to something like that. But in the end, that's not the end of it. The term limits alone, you'd eliminate 60 years worth of freaking hard work from the WEF and the globalists in one shot. All of the friggin' the ancient rhinos and friggin' and Marxists that are in our government now would instantaneously be gone. Now we would still have the problem of the young Marxists coming up, right? Who might be getting elected and such. It's a separate problem to deal with, but like all the ones that are powerful will be gone. And so does that solve all the problems? No. But here's the main thing that really does solve the problem. And this is what I advocate for. And this is the reason why I'm such a staunch advocate for it in the first place. And that's the precedent that gets set. So the precedent now, because up to this point, this has never been completed. No one's ever gotten to the end. The threats have gotten up as many as 30 states and such. Even the Bill of Rights was done this way. They were going to call it another convention, and they just gave in, and they just added the Bill of Rights. And like, so each time they get close, the feds give in and just enact whatever it is that we're going to call the convention on and move on. But this time that ain't going to happen. This time it's going to go all the way through. And like, and I'll give you, just to give you the power of that. I was talking to you privately about Scalia, and when we were talking about the John Birch Society and how much bullshit they are, and whatever, and the video that they put out on Scalia. So here's that clip that I was telling you about, where Scalia talks about it in an interview, not an interview, it was a town hall where they were discussing convention of states and the use of it, and they had some of the best legal minds, of which Scalia was one, talking about it. And here's what he said.
All of these reasons have created this feeling, which is real and which I think has a proper basis, of powerlessness. One remedy for that, the one specifically provided in the Constitution, is this amendment process which bypasses the Congress. I would like to see that amendment process used just once at first. I don't much care what it's used for the first time. I think just having it used once will exert an enormous influence upon both the Congress and the Supreme Court, I think. I think we'll get the parameters established of how you do it, what can be done, and I think after that the Congress and the court will behave much better.
And that's
I
the
didn't hear
point
him say anything about 2A.
No, he doesn't. No, there's what they tried to do was, I'll show you that offline. You can watch. I have a video out.
I saw it. I was just, yeah.
So like, but yeah, and there's more quotes from him like that. You know, the entire thing, that entire debate, he was 110% in support of convention of states. John Birch Society went and pretended that there was something in there that suggested he didn't, and that Cause Action was lying about it and being manipulative, and then used this one tag quote of him saying, "Whoa, don't use a convention." And when someone was asking him about people who want to change the Second Amendment, there is no threat to any amendment in the Bill of Rights. Period. There's no threat to anything. That's, you know, you got to remember, it's got to get, number one, it's got to be on the topic sheet, and number two, it's got to get ratified by 38 states, which means only 13 can shoot it down, and with 13 shooting it down, there's no shot. There's no shot. There are 20 states. Heck, there are 13. I think Mark Meckler was making this point. There are 13 who allow you to walk into a House of Representatives hearing with a freaking rifle on your shoulder. Like there's no way you're finding 13 states to free. Right. I mean, I could pop off the top of my head over 25 that would never vote for such a thing.
Right. Well, most of the ones that have passed it already are constitutional carry states, right?
All of them really.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's 19 right there.
Right.
So I mean, in the end, and the thing is, once these delegates get in, it's one vote, one state. It's not by population. So like, if friggin' California gets as many votes in this process as Rhode Island, right? Like there's none of this electoral college system nonsense that goes on. Not that that's nonsense, but that type of style that goes into this. None of that. It's a convention of states. Each state goes in as an equal sovereign state. And that's how this gets decided. So we need 38 of those states to rule yay on the amendments that we want. And look, you know, they made it clear that it's been made clear, and they're right. Once the 34 states are on board, it's not over. It's just beginning. Like, people need to be engaged with their local legislators as to who the delegates are going to be, like what the, you know, like what specific amendments they want to see, you know, come out of this. But again, it's the proposition, like Scalia was saying, once it's done, all of these people who have the grassroots, who have put together the fight to get that done, they're not going anywhere. So like, if they want to turn around a year later and now the apparatus is in place, right? Like now our own machine for good is in place. So now what? They're still letting the border freaking leak like that? Okay, look, guys, get it under control, or we're going to have to do this again. right? And at that point, you're going to see, and this is what Scalia meant, where you're going to see them behave much better, because it's going to be dad coming in the room and spanking the child. That's what it is. Like, let's remember, the federal government is a child of the states. Like this, and that child's been allowed to run around and break shit and play ball in the house and do all the things it's not supposed to be doing for a century or more. This is simply the people, right, who are the parent in this situation, coming back in the room and dropping the hammer. And we all know what happens to the child after the hammer gets dropped. He starts behaving.
Listen, George, I'm really sorry, but it's 3-hour time difference, and I need.
Yeah,
to,
no doubt. Anyway, we're over a half hour anyway. So on that note, and it looks like we're dropping off anyway. So I don't see anything else in the chat. Let me see. Let's get through the last group of comments here. So yeah, climate change is definitely a hoax for sure, Brian, for sure.
Climate change is not a hoax. Climate crisis is a hoax.
Well, yeah, but I think I know what he means. You're right.
I know,
right.
but that's
I know you got to parse words with these people. You're right. You're right.
Climate change is real. Climate crisis is not. Remember that. The climate has always changed. It's the freaking climate.
Right. Absolutely.
But I'm gonna bail out on. I'll talk to you offline, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Everybody out there, I'll see you next Wednesday.
Yeah, next Wednesday we'll be back on. Look forward to it. Again, thank you, everybody, for helping the Facebook channel monetize. Head over to YouTube and give us a hand over there. We could definitely use the love. Until then, we're out.
And like that,